starting to feel comfortable in front of the camera. So I spoke to a number of Indigenous Peoples representatives and organizations. So let's go.
Keep breathing life with Kiaura. Hold on to your Aina for the next generation. Continue your national aspirations with Menamuria. Keep playing the pife in Brazil. Keep throat singing in Russia. And keep the round dance going, my North American family. This is a time where we widen the circle of opportunity and deepen the meaning of our rights.
We have an endangered species. Usually, you have to approach very slowly.
Because the declaration is more than the minimum standard. It is a map in the stars where we can realize the dreams of our ancestors.
This is the Go Maluku podcast.
Hey, what's good, everyone? Ghazali Ohorella here with episode 002. Well, 002.5, maybe that's a better way to describe it, of the Go Maluku Live, where I sit down with very good friends of mine, people from the indigenous rights business work that we do, and talk a little bit more about why they do what they do, and and everything else in between, actually. I said 2.5 because unfortunately last Monday we did record episode 2 live, but had some problems in terms of audio. A lot of people provided us some feedback, like, hey, Atina is saying some very great things, but I can't hear it at all. So I try to adjust it in post. By post, I mean post production. But like, unfortunately, like, it was I would say like unsalvageable in a way that you could try to make up things if you're watching on YouTube, but podcasts and everything else, like audio, would be difficult to understand. And we'll try to maintain a certain level of quality, of course, with both in production as well as in content. So that's why, luckily, Atina was prepared to, hey, you know what? Let's sit down another day and have a talk, a different talk. Well, not a different talk. Maybe the same talk. I'll leave it totally up to Atina. So in episode 002.5, Atina Pamei from the Naga people joins us. Atina, welcome again. For the people that are not familiar with you, could you share a bit of context so people can get to know you, where you grew up, and like your parents and how your childhood was, before we go into like the Q&A part of this episode? Welcome, Atina.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ghazali, for this another wonderful opportunity. Yeah, I really appreciate that you agreed to host this again, and I'm very indebted to you. And it's such a great pleasure to be here in your show, and I hope to share about my story and about my people. At the same time, I also expect to learn from you. So I hope that it will be a two-way Q&A. So I'm very
100%, 100%, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, my name is Atina Pamei Gaare. Currently, I live in Europe, in Norway. I belong to the Rongmei people of the indigenous Naga nation. And my hometown is Tamenglong, that is in South Nagaland. And we are placed under the administration of Manipur states in the Northeast India. I will also be sharing a little bit later on, but as you know, that the Naga peoples are divided and placed under different administrative units, both in Indian sides and also in Myanmar. So in the Indian side, we are placed under 4 administrative units in the Indian states of Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and Nagaland. And in Myanmar side, the Naga people ancestral territory is in the it is in the northwestern part of Myanmar, and they're also placed within 2 administrative units. That's how we are. We are divided, and that's one of the issues that we are facing right now. Anyway, going back to where I was born and brought up, as I said, I came from South Nagaland side, a place called Tamenglong, and I was born in a family where my father and my uncle, they were very much engaged in the social work, community work. So my dad is also currently now a community leader. He's the chairperson of my village, Nreklong, Tamenglong village. And my mother was a school teacher, and she was one of the first educated in her village. So those days, if you get an opportunity to study up to primary, class 6, 7, then you're considered like the graduate and postgraduate of these days. So that's how it is. And she was also very much engaged in the community work as a teacher, and also she was exposed to another town where she got to live with a missionary called Miss Rose, and then she got some exposure and training in healthcare, in nursing, etc. So those come in handy in terms of serving her community in the village.
You're for example, if I can reflect a little bit or mirror that a little bit with how I grew up and in my childhood, was the movement of the Naga people, was it already part of your childhood, of your upbringing? Did your parents really like make you not make you, but like inform you about the struggle, or did you grow into it by yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I was born in 1971, so there was already, at the peak of the national Naga national movement. Our Naga resistance movement starts way back before the pre-India independence. So if I go a little bit back to the historical events and landmarks, I would say that our Naga resistance movement started as early as in 1832. That was in the 19th century, where the Angami Naga first got in that the British came to the Angami village, and there was a first encounter with the foreigners. So there was the British India, and they were expanding their colony, and also they were building roads and communication system there, and that's how they passed through Naga Hills, and that's when a fierce battle took place in 1879 to 1880, and that was called the Battle of Konoma. That was the first Naga resistance movement, I would say. So it was literally a fight. And then later on, in 1918, a Naga club was formed as a political organization, the first Naga platform, to
Naga club?
Yeah, it was called Naga Club.
Really?
So,
okay.
Yes, and the how this Naga club came about is also very interesting, because during the First World War, about 2,000 Nagas were taken to France in Europe to help the Allied force. That was by the British government. They were taken there as a labor corps to help the Allied force, which British was, part of the Allied forces. So during that exposure, they were exposed to the modern nations and nationalism. So the concept of nations and nationalism was first introduced to them from that exposure. So when they returned to Nagaland, along with others, those who have been there, and along with others who are, enlightened Naga, I would say, it could be the, translator. We have the interpreter, because Britishers, they speak English, so somebody has to interpret. So we call it Dobasis, the interpreter. And then school teachers and a few of other enlightened groups, together with those who return, they form this club as a social organization, as a political organization. So it was the first Naga platform. And then later, interestingly, around that time in 1920s, late 1920s, in South Nagaland, that's where I come from, there was this man called Jaudonang. He was not what do you call, he didn't go to school. He was not exposed to the modern education, but he was sort of a man of vision, a visionary leader. So he started an uprising, political uprising against the British, and he called himself the Naga King or the Naga Raj. Raj is like a Hindi word, and he would mobilize the community, and he mobilized a number of people as his followers, and he formed a group like a warrior, like an army of people, and then also together with the political resistance, he also look into the social aspect and the religious aspects of the people. So in a way, his movement was more of a holistic. And just so you know that the religious movement that he started is called Heraka movement, and it is still continuing until today. So I would say that is the one of the only few left indigenous religion from the Naga people that is existing until today. So later on, his the movement he started was continued by Rani Gaideliu, another figure, another political leader, and also a religious leader. But so around that time, this man started, but sadly, his life was cut short because the British know that he is going to be the one to spark off this national movement. So he was arrested on the pretext of killing somebody who has come to his village. So he has nothing to do with that crime, but the villagers killed some traders from the non-Nagas who entered the village. You know how in the indigenous village there is this taboo when you are not supposed to enter. They have some kind of regulations. Certain days, certain people, guests, outsider are not allowed to enter. But on that day, these traders, we call it the Meitei traders, people from the valley, they entered the village. They came to the village just to trade, like tobacco, leaf, and chili and whatnot. But then these villagers, since they have violated the village law, they kill them. So Jaudonang was framed for the killing, and the British arrested him, and he was hanged to death in 1931. So I would say that he was the first martyr of Naga freedom fighter.
And what was all this history of the Naga people? Was it how did you learn it? Was it taught in school, or did you have to learn it by yourself? Like your parents, maybe stories. How did you accumulate all that knowledge?
Right now there are lots of written books and stories, and also to a certain extent also in the school they have incorporated. But for me, when I was growing, there was nothing like that. When I go to school, I learn history, but it's nothing to do with my people, our people, because there was nothing written. All the history I learned is about Indian history, European history, but these things I learned from my parents, from my grandparents, from the elders in the village, and from the leaders in the village. So it's mouth to mouth, oral transmission of stories. So, but now, of course, there are also so many literature available, like the writers, Indian writers, the British writers, they make references of all these people, so it is there. But for me, I did not learn from school, but it's mostly from.
And then in the books right now, just trying to go a little bit more deeper into that. The books that are the literature that's available right now, does it accurately reflect the Naga struggle, or does it reflect the Naga struggle from the perspective of the British, or from the perspective of India? Because I know from our side, at least, like we can from the Maluku movement, like the history is written from the perspective of the Dutch, or from the perspective of Indonesia. So it's always very colored in a way that it puts us in a very bad spotlight. How is that in your context?
Yeah, absolutely. Not everything, not everything that you find in the literature is sometimes correct. For instance, in this regard, Zaudonang, as I was explaining, he is projected mostly as a religious reformer, not as a political, figure. So that is still a kind of, debate going on even among the Nagas, because the historians, so be it the British or the Indian, they have omitted the political side of the story. Of course, they mention a little bit, but it's not so prominent in the writings. That is why there is some confusion, and people say that, oh, Jodonang and Rani Gadeliu, they are the prophet, or they are the one who bring about this religion, the Heraka religion, and their movement is more on the cult, religious Heraka. The reason why they call cult is also because the British, they are Christians, and they see the indigenous religion as some kind of paganism and cult, so they have projected in from that kind of from that perspective, and that has been carried down. And now in the Naga society, majority of the Nagas are Christian. We are like 97% Christian in the Naga society now. So as I said, the beginning was the British who projected it wrongly, not as a political activist. Of course, he was also promoting, he was also trying to bring about reformation in the religious, social, economic, and everything. It was a holistic kind of movement. For a person who didn't go to school, but having that kind of political, social vision is amazing. I would say. I think none of us would be able to match that kind of his kind of capability, credibility, the caliber that he possessed is amazing. So although you have to also know there are certain people, of course, who write really the truth. So among so many things available, you have to choose what is the authentic report or the historical accounts, and which one is biased. So there is definitely things there, but unfortunately, again, we don't have too many books that is dedicated to one account, one historical person, or of the patriot or of the Naga movement. So you have to pick up from here and there, bits by pieces.
Yeah, like I don't know who said it, but somebody said like the victor writes history, and so like the one that's gets to win is able to write history, because everyone likes that hero story, of course. And then unfortunately in the Indigenous people's context, too much, too often, we see that a very misinformed, not even misinformed, but like not taking into account like the an accurate reflection of the movement. Why the Naga people, the Maluku people, the Maori people, like a lot of Indigenous people, like why they started their movements. Atina, this is something that I'm always very fascinated by.
Sorry, Ghazali.
Go ahead.
Can I continue to the next one, because it's very important? I haven't gone to the very important point with regards to the Naga national
Sure.
movement.
Go ahead.
So I was telling you about the 1918 where Naga Club was formed, but that was the beginning. But a very important, significant landmark in the Naga history is the 1929, where Naga people submitted a memorandum to Simon Commission. So this memorandum is a Naga National Political Memorandum, basically saying that Nagas should be left alone to determine their own present and future, as in ancient times after the British leave. So that was, this is still within the period before independence. So they are appealing to the British India to give them the autonomy, to give them the right to self-determination, that they don't want to be part of India. It was very clear. So in 1929, they have submitted this memorandum to Simon Commission, and that laid down the foundation of Naga nationhood. Just to go back a little bit, Nagas before the in the beginning were all, villages, a unit of village, they have their own autonomy. Each village is an independent unit governing themselves, so they have their very strong political institutions. So again, just to also go back, who are the Nagas? Okay, Nagas are indigenous people with an estimated population of over 4 million now. And then we have more than 60 tribes, and each of these tribes speaks different languages. And then they have their own social customs and political institutions. But we share commonality in terms of our cultures and way of life. And I think that is the binding factors for all of us. Otherwise, we have our own languages, and we have our own institution. As I say, we were, a separate independent unit, each village. So it was later when the idea of modern nations and nationalism evolved, then everybody gets together. And so, as I said, the 1929 is incident where we submit a memorandum to the Simon Commission, lay down the foundation of the Naga nationhood. And this is a very, very important landmark and for our Naga struggle to freedom. So after the submission of this memorandum, in 1935, responding positively to the wishes of the Naga Club, Government of India Act, under the Act 1935, they designated Naga Hills District as excluded areas, meaning to say that Nagas were not conditioned within the laws and regulations that is enforced for other Indian states. So we were sort of given a kind of freedom in the sense that we were not completely administered. We were given some kind of leeway to exercise our rights. And so we were allowed to continue with our traditional ways of life with little interference from both the federal and the provincial government. That was the kind of status we were in. So that was before India independence. And then comes in 1945, the Naga National Council was formed as a political organization, replacing the Naga Club. So when Naga National Council was formed in 1945, that demanded a status for autonomous status for the Naga region, for the whole of Naga region, to the British government. And in 1947, 9-point agreement arrived between the governor of, it was an agreement signed between the governor of India called Akbar Haidari, and we call this also an accord, Haidari Accord. So a 9-point agreement. And under this 9-point agreement, judicial, executive, legislative powers, as well as autonomy in land-related matters were granted to the Naga people. And then there was a clause that says that 10 years after the implementation of this agreement, Naga people have the right to either extend it or come up with a new agreement. So that was the kind of content of the 9-point agreement. But sadly, when India got independence, they disregard this agreement, and the Constituent Assembly refused to ratify this accord. And that's when a group of Naga leaders also went to meet Mahatma Gandhi, the father of India. And Gandhi has assured them that if Naga people do not want to join the Indian Union, they have every right not to, so that was also a historical kind of statements. But sadly, Gandhi was killed before the India independence, and so his words cannot be come alive. That was how it went. And in the NNC was started as a political organization, and but then the Indian started to send in military to suppress the Naga resistance movement. So what it started as a peaceful democratic process turned into armed conflict, because when Indian Army starts sending armed forces, and they also enacted repressive laws like the Assam Maintenance Public Order Act, and also the Disturbed Area Act of 1955, and Armed Forces Special Power Act. The Disturbed Area Act and Armed Forces Special Power Act is still in place. Can you imagine now in this present days in Nagaland? And this power give the armed forces the right to suppress, to really take control of the Naga people's movement for independence. So that was the situation, and so there has been lot of human rights violation cases, starting from raping, tortures, arbitrary detention, burning down of the whole village, you name it. And also they were used as forced labor. So starting from the 1950s until how many years now, the Naga resistance movement, if you date back from 1832, it's more than 188 years. But if you count from the India independence, of course it's 73 years. But if you count from the 1929, when we submitted the Simon Commission, it is now more than 100 years. So this Naga resistance movement is one of the oldest in the world, as everybody knows. Anyway, I think I have gone too long, so maybe.
So I think I have like a follow-up question on that one is like, well, actually two, and one is, and to your knowledge, of course, like the Naga, the history of the Naga struggle, is it available, readily available, like online, or so that the mass, like the general public of Indigenous peoples at large can familiarize themselves with it? Because is it available? And if so, like where can people read it?
Yes, it is available.
From the account of the Nagas, of course.
Yes, absolutely. We also have historians, for example, to name a few that I know. Dr. Vizier, he is now based in Australia. So he has also written, he is someone, he's also one of the custodian of Naga history in that sense. Of course, although he's also a history of other, world history and other history, but he's one right person to contact to, and he has written and come up with article, written several publications. And also, recently, there is a book that is published by a lawyer. She has been working on the Naga people's issues for many years. Also, she is a human rights lawyer. Her name is Nandita Haksar, and she has written a book, Kuknalim, and it's about the resistance of the Naga people. And also we have other writers, Naga writers like Dr. Kaka Iralu. He just passed away last year. And then also, many others. So you would definitely, And
I think, so let me rephrase the question a little bit, because what I'm trying to get at is like the movement, the Naga movement for independence, for sovereignty or self-determination. Like, is it online documenting their work, what they're doing. Or like give them brief background on the struggle, everything that you just now shared, to put it more into a context, and documenting their struggle at this point. Is that happening?
Yes. I cannot exactly tell you which one, where, how, but definitely there are so many literature available, and now that the ceasefire is going on, there is, if you just type in Indo-Naga peace talk or Naga political issues, then a lot of articles, write-ups will pop up.
That is current. The peace talks and that is happening right now. Right? Is that
exactly
correct? Okay.
The peace talk between the government of India and the Naga political groups is happening right now. And just to tell you a little bit about the peace process, I have not mentioned before, but right after the 9-point agreement was sort of the first, kind of agreement between India, British India / British India. But then later on in 1960. In 1960 also there was an attempt for another agreement, and then in that one we call it 16-point agreement. So it was actually signed between the Naga People Convention, so that's more the civil society, I would say, not the armed groups. So that 16-point agreement led to the creation of Nagaland state. We have now the Nagaland state under the Indian Union, which is just 1/3 of the whole Naga ancestral land. So the larger chunk is left out, and Nagaland was crafted, from within the Naga territories, and that is why the nationalists, the Naga nationalists, they do not agree to that agreement, and that's where the fight continued. The struggle continued. They rejected that 16-point agreement. But of course, Nagaland state has come into being, and it is still there now, existing as one of the administrative unit within Indian Union. And then later on, there was another attempt, 1964. There was another peace talk between the NNC. I was telling you about that, Naga National Council. The 16-point agreement was signed between Naga People's Convention and this NNC. Then is the armed group, underground group, and they have this. They created this self-government called the Federal Government of Nagaland. We call it FGN. So the government of India and the federal government of Nagaland entered into a ceasefire in 1964, and a talk went on for 18 months, but it did not come to any logical conclusion, because India imposed them to submit under the Indian Constitution, and they rejected. So the ceasefire broke. And now the recent ceasefire that was that came into place in 1997, that was 23 years ago. Since then, there has been a series of talks going on, and we want to believe, we hope and we want to believe that this is now coming to close with a logical, honorable, inclusive settlement. That's the wish. That's the Naga people's wish and aspiration to have a logical, honorable, and inclusive settlement of the Naga peace talk. So this is going on. There has been a lot of things within this ceasefire also. Anyway, just to go back a little bit on the situation of human rights situation. As I said, I was born in 1971, and I grew up seeing the military. I was talking about Armed Forces Special Power Act and how it affects us. if you go to another country, of course, it would be the same in Maluku, I'm sure. You see the soldiers as your enemy. So we see them as our enemies. So as a child, if I see an army moving around my house or in the city or on the road, then I would be so traumatized and imagine all sorts. Especially as a young girl, as a woman, you fear that the first thing that comes to your mind is, okay, this Indian military, is he going to rape me? Is he going to assault me? So that kind of fear psychosis was existing in the minds of everyone, young and old. And then where was I? So we grew up in that kind of conflict situation where everything was just it was a chaos. There was no sense of security in your life, in everyday life. Whether you go to school, you go to field, you go to work, or you stay at home, there's always tension. From fear of this security arms, or we call it the Indian Army. Anyway, so 1997 ceasefire came, and it was a really a breath of fresh air for all the Naga people in all the Naga areas. So we are really hoping that there will be a lasting peace, and that is still our dream and our aspiration and our hope that this talk will not end like the talk before. So this is what's going on, and after so many years of talks, in 2015, the government of India and the NSCN-IM, that is representing the Naga people in the negotiations. NSCN stands for Naga National Socialist Council of Nagaland, and they are in these political negotiations for so many years. And in 2015, they've one of the achievement, I would say, outcome of the peace talks is that they have signed a framework agreement on August 3, and this is based on the government of India recognition of the unique history and situations of the Naga people. So that means that the government of India consider the Naga people's resistance not as a law and order problem, but it's a political in nature. So that is a big breakthrough. And of course, that was also one of the conditions in which the NSCN-IM enter into ceasefire, because the government of India expressed that they understand and they recognize the unique history and situations of the Naga people. Anyway, but there's always the journey is not always easy or smooth as we want it to be, because even within the Naga political groups, we call it, that is the Naga National Worker, they have different groups, different factions. They cannot come together as one voice. And so there's a parallel talk going on with other groups called the Naga National Political Groups, that is formed by 6 different factions, NNPGs we call it. And they also have, they don't come together in one table, so they have a separate talk with NSCN-IM and separate talk with NNPGs. The government of India is doing this. And but some development also with the NNPGs is that they have come up with an agreed positions in 2017, where there is some agreement signed between them, so these are the things that is going on. But sadly, I would say that the Indian government is also playing this politics, the policy of divide and rule. This is always the case with the colonizer, isn't it? So that's the situation. And then just recently, the content of the agreed positions and also the framework agreement has been shared to the public to a certain extent, but we still don't know the whole content, the nitty-gritty of what is there in the agreement. And the Indian government has appointed the interlocutor who was the go-between between government of India and the Naga people. His name is R.N. Rabi. He was doing his job very well to start with, but he was appointed the governor of Nagaland, making him the administrative head of Nagaland state. So that complicates things, and there's so many political questions and a lot of things going in inside, but I will not get into that.
Yeah, I actually, all right. First question actually is so you talk about groups, fractions, and which group or organization do you identify yourself with at this point? I think I'm asking that so that I can ask you another question related to that.
I would not identify with anyone actually, because as I mentioned briefly, every Naga political groups have the same goal, that is for Naga sovereignty, for Naga autonomy. But the problem is that they have a difference of opinions or how on the approach, how they want to reach there. And so and sometimes, to be very honest, it could also be because of a leadership crisis. Ideology is one. I have not mentioned to you that the beginning of Naga national political groups was called the Naga National Council, NNC, that was headed by Fizo. He was a tall leader, and he has done so much for the Naga people. We call him the father of Naga people, just like India called Mahatma Gandhi as the father of India. Anyway, so this group was really for autonomy. It was really for full sovereignty, for freedom, really not within India, not to be under the Constitution of India. But as I said, the 16-point agreement, and then later on, there is also another accord called Shillong Accord. That also is a sort of betrayal to the objective of the national movement. So from that on, this NSCN-IM continue with the struggle. So they name themselves NSCN-IM to say that we do not support this agreement, the Shillong Accord.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm asking actually because I think you not identify yourself with an organization makes my next question, at least the answer to my next question, a lot more easier for you, because I recognize this. I recognize how should I say it? There's not a lot of people that know the really ins and outs of the Naga struggle. Yeah. Particularly there's not a lot of people that I know at the international level, within the UN, within the Indigenous movement, that are familiar with the Naga struggle. I'm saying I recognize this because my mom went through the exact same thing when she was 17. Went to the UN for the very first time in the late 60s, early 70s, and she had to introduce herself as introduce the struggle as how she introduces herself from Alifuru, the Indigenous peoples that of our nation, and that we're from Maluku, and she had to do it over and over and over and over again, and up until well into her 40s and into her 50s, so already 30, 40 years into the struggle, she still had to keep on doing that. The reason, and you've been explaining the whole Naga struggle from A to Z actually, and I'm sure that you have to skip some things which are also very important, and obviously I'm more than happy to facilitate that. I'll give you this platform to talk about that. I'm seeing an opportunity for you to, why not, because you've been talking already for 30 minutes or so, and I think it's an opportunity for you to if you're a good write about it, or if you jump in front of a camera, and go on Facebook Live or something and document it. Like it's very important that at least that we document. Could be through voice for podcast. I'm doing this for podcast as well. Video on Facebook Live or Twitter or Instagram, whatever you want to, or LinkedIn, or writing for Medium and blog posts, so that like people can once they Google Naga struggle or Naga political movement, that they can find something like that is not written by the British, that is not written by an academic, but it's written by an activist. So, and I think. And this is just an idea. Like they popped up into my head, and like I recognize this. What you're doing. My mom went to do the same, and I would highly recommend you, and not just yourself, but like a lot of Indigenous peoples that are also going to the UN for 50. You've been in the movement for 15 years already, you know. So like, it should not. And in my view, at least, we're in this age right now, 2020, that you should not have to. Have to like take every opportunity to or not sorry should I say this like make use of the opportunities that we have, the platforms that are at our disposal, to put our messages out there, so that you can say things on your own terms, like the 3 minutes in the UN, for example. We all wait at the UN to speak for 3 minutes. But our histories and everything else, it's hard to condense that into 3 minutes.
Yes.
You know, so that's why it's very important. All right, 3 minutes in the UN, but you have videos, you have podcasts, YouTube, and everything else to give more context to your struggle. I think that it's just an idea that I would like to throw out there for you and a lot of other Indigenous peoples. I think there's a lot of value for them in that as well. Not to cut you off or whatever, but it just popped into my head, and I wanted to say it before I forget it. You talked about human rights violations before I intervened. Are you making use of because you went to the UN? We know each other through the UN.
Yes.
You talked about human rights violations. Are you or the movement or organizations from your intuition? I'm not saying like from the movement standpoint, from your intuition, are they making use of effective use of the I don't know, Human Rights Council or UPR or treaty bodies complaint mechanisms?
Yes, a little briefly on the question that you asked that I didn't answer fully. You asked me who do I associate myself with, with the groups. But as I said, I don't particularly associate with this group. But of course, the Naga political groups have the sort of the support of the people. Without the support of the people, they cannot exist, I'm telling you. So it's not like a self-organized or, self-styled Naga resistance movement. No, they have the full support of the people. That's for sure. So, but me, if I talk about myself, I come in as a activist, as a human rights activist, indigenous rights activist, and what is my intervention or my engagement here on the Naga rights is our rights, our inherent rights, which is guaranteed in the international laws. For example, if you take the UN treaty, we have the Article 3, where we have the rights to self-determination. Yes, self-determination, and that is been violated, and so it's a outright human rights violation. So I'm coming from that context, but I have to tell all these stories so that you know where our history, our political struggle lies. But I'm coming from that context, just to level off that question.
Yeah, sure. I apologize if you think that the question was like, all right, let me put what label should I put on you? Just like it was just a prelude to the follow-up question. And being an activist makes it a lot more easier actually to document. It's in
your suggestions, yes, I definitely agree with you, and I think except for some write-ups, short publications, that the activists, many of the human rights activists from among the Nagas also, they write and they present and they talk. There are so many Naga activists also out there who are so much more, effective and so much more better than me. But
what makes you say that? Sorry to interrupt you with it, but what makes you say that they're better than you?
Yeah, but that's a very good question. I think that reminds me of the talk we had in Geneva last year, when we were really discussing about how to build confidence, and what we are doing is what matters, and then how we should take confidence in the work that we do, believe in what we do, and that we are not alone, and that there is a big circle of people in the indigenous movement that support, and we have a big alliance. I think that was something that you told me. Thank you for that. Anyway,
I think like it could very well be that the people that you're looking up to, that they're looking up to you. It could very well be that because you've been in the movement for 15 years ongoing, and like that your experience is valuable. It's different. It's very important that you differentiate the whole movement, that you differentiate your activities. Some are academics, fine. Some are painters or poets, fine. That's also part of the resistance. It's also part of self-determination. You have also activists, people like yourself. They're also there's no you shouldn't see that as like a hierarchy. Like we're all contributing to something.
Yes.
So like your contribution is to the movement. And the measurement of you should not measure yourself with the people that you look up to, but measure yourself in the entire an entire movement, into like the goal, the big hairy audacious goal of the Naga people. Like measure yourself to that, like how that as a contribution to that. So that's why and by all means, like I had the same issue before, that people are smarter than I am, they're better and everything else, and all of a sudden like you're talking yourself down. And because of what? From what I know and what I see, like from the Naga people, there's only a few people right now at the UN participating, and you're one of them. And you've been doing it for 15 years. On top of that, you were also fellow at the Office of High Commissioner. Not only that, you're senior fellow to the Office of the High Commissioner. So you bring a lot more to the table in terms of the Naga movement than other people, or maybe better than you think yourself. So
yes.
Do you agree, or am I talking shit?
I agree. I definitely agree. But I think or the reason why I say that, maybe not too much with conviction, why I say is maybe that was just we come from a culture where we always have this so-called courtesy, in this. I don't know how your culture is, but
it's a sense of humility. You're humble.
Yeah, humility.
You're humble.
So, in a way, it's also from that context. But I definitely also mean when I say there are also many other good people.
Oh, 100%. Like what I'm saying is not saying like putting yourself on a pedestal and basically saying like being an asshole. That's not what I'm saying. The only thing that I'm saying is that there's a lot of people out there that talk themselves down, and whilst they're in not a position, but at a certain place that can help people. And once you're in a place to help people, like you do not have to talk yourself down. but like the only thing that you can do is if when you're looking down is to help people up, so yeah, so like don't interpret it as in like, oh, be an asshole but not like that. No, sorry about that.
I totally agree with you, and thank you for pointing out that important point, because it's a fact that maybe it's been already subconsciously inbuilt. If you look at the society or indigenous society, I want to touch a little bit about the gender relation here. Where I come from, it's a patriarchal society. And whether you want to admit it or not, it's a bitter truth that even now, the male member of a society is always on the higher side, on the upper side, and women are seen as the subordinate. So that gender relation, where we are born and where we were brought up and where we are used to intermingling, that could also be something to as a background for us to sort of take a back seat, for example. Okay, let others do, and and then again, if me as a woman, I can do it, and I know that there are certain things that it should be done, and then I come forward and go in front of men, then the men would again see it like, oh, she's over smart, kind of. No, I mean, putting it in a very layman term, I'm saying this. So these are also certain things that I think most indigenous society have this, and this needs to be definitely rectified from the gender perspective. And if we want to empower women, they should also be given the space, the opportunity, and also they should be recognized. The recognition, of their roles and contributions, and also their capacities, the resources that they have. I think if society, community acknowledge them more, I think there will be more, even more, they could contribute even more. And of course, having said that, I'm not saying that now everything is still male dominated. No. Now the Naga society has started to acknowledge, especially those who are the enlightened ones, the educated ones, and who have been exposed, who have seen the world, who have heard about what others are doing. They're starting to be very supportive. And that is why women are getting more vocal. They are coming out, and they are, working in equal terms with men in a lot of organizations. So that is there, definitely. But we still got a long way to go. And talking about ceasefire, the negotiation going on, there is no women member sitting in the negotiating table with the government of India currently.
Yeah.
So that's a sad part.
Tackling into, I think that's a very, very important point that you're striking. Actually, from women's perspective, obviously, I cannot talk about it. I can only ask questions about it. Like, do you think from your perspective, like, is, for example, the movement, the indigenous movement, like the broader global indigenous movement, is that doing enough to empower women in advocacy, for example? Did you feel empowered? Maybe that's a better question.
Yeah. Yes, as far as the Indigenous Peoples movement is concerned, for example, if I go to the UN and meet up with the Indigenous caucus, I don't feel intimidated, or I don't feel sidelined. But of course, you have to be able to perform. You have to be able to contribute. And as long as you are in a position to give, to provide the inputs, to contribute, then nobody questions you because you're a woman. No, that I don't feel. So at least in the Indigenous Peoples movement globally, I don't know how things are when people go back to their own community, but in the larger picture, in the bigger platform, yeah, I definitely think that there is high regards and acknowledgement for women's roles and contribution.
Maybe yeah, I think it's also very interesting. Like, what was your first, like, what made you decide to go to the UN, as in like the first time you went to the UN?
Yeah.
Because can you recall that meeting? Did you feel, did you feel that you were ready to do it, or was there something lacking still? What went through your mind when you went to the UN for the very first time?
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you briefly about my first participation at the UN meetings. In 2003, I went to attend the UN Fellowship Program, which was a 5 months program, and there I got to attend the working group on indigenous population that was still going on, and also the working group on draft declaration where the UN DRIP was being negotiated upon. So, but in that 2 meetings, I went there as a fellow, so I'm not given the opportunity or not allowed to speak or to make statements or to participate. We were there more like an observer to learn, how things are, the process.
As an intern, basically.
But the first meetings I represented for my organization was the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues in 2004, where I made a statement, where I was able to read a statement in the plenary. And in that meeting, of course, my first time, but then the UN Fellowship has sort of equipped me in the sense that how the process is like, although I still have not really had the first-hand experience, learning from books and listening and really doing the work is different, our experience. But that was a very good introduction to start engaging. And it was a bit overwhelming with so many things happening, and but still I get the gist of what happened, and then I was able to present my statement on behalf of my organization, that was the Naga Women's Union. And in that meeting, I also make a statement about these Naga political issues actually. And then because that time the ceasefire was already in place, and then I was advocating and bringing the issues to the Permanent Forum to say that, okay, we need your support. We need the support of the UN, their intervention, to speed up the process of the peace negotiation. So that was basically my statement also there. And in that meeting, yes, aside from the plenary and the statement that I delivered, I got to meet so many other Indigenous Peoples organizations, and also get to hear the stories, share my stories also. And then I understand that there are so many others who have similar struggles, like us, like my people, like the Naga people, or different situations. But we are all suppressed by the colonizer or by the states. So we were able to build solidarity among other indigenous people. And aside from that, also got to interact with other support groups like international human rights organizations, the UN agencies, human rights advocacy groups. So it was a very good platform where you can really build your network. And I think my exposure to the UN as a fellows and also going to these international meetings has widened my network, and that has been helpful for me to also connect back to my organizations. For instance, the 74 Independence Day celebration, where you came in as one of the speakers to deliver the solidarity message. If I have not been in the indigenous movement at the global level, I wouldn't know you or Galina or Sankar or other people. But we know each other now. We have built our network not just professionally, but also like how indigenous people are. When we meet, we have this connection. We become like one family, brother and sister. So that connection is, I feel, very special and very strong in the indigenous peoples movement. You may be from North America, South America, Asia, Africa. You come there and you feel the connection. It's amazing. That's something that I don't find it other places. So anyway, so then I feel so free to ask, Ghazali, can you please come in and talk, and then you came in and you gave such an amazing, powerful speech, and we are so very happy to hear that, and it is still recorded, and it is still up in on our page on the Global Naga Forum, and people are listening and getting inspired. So we'll remain forever indebted to you for that, and also to the others.
Now, well, please don't, like,
No,
you're not in debt with
I
me.
mean it.
It is, the thing is, like, the Naga struggle, the movement for independence. I have a very soft spot for indigenous independence movements, because we are also in the Maluku people also fighting for to regain our independence. So in that sense, I have a very soft spot. Also, that I can very much relate to the struggle that the Naga peoples are for independence. I see where you guys are. I can see the parallels on both sides. So in that sense, I usually, I didn't even need to prepare for the few minutes that I got to address the forum, which was amazing. With like I said, Galina, Gam, and Raja Devashish Roy. It was definitely amazing.
Yeah.
Shankar as well.
Yeah.
Definitely a very, very how could should I say, like, a very distinguished lineup, and being part of that is very, 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 very humbling. So thank you for that, Atina. And then thank you for being in movement, being indigenous from Naga, and staying an activist. Because even though you live in Norway, you're still Naga. You're Naga first, right?
Yes, of course.
So
I will remain Naga forever.
Because a lot of people have and I have the same problem as well, is that people think, a lot of indigenous people think that, like, living as an indigenous person outside of your islands or traditional lands makes you less indigenous. And I don't know why they have that in their mind, but there's a lot of people think that way. And I think I just want to refute that. Like, you living in Norway, myself living in Europe, way outside of the islands, like, does not make me less indigenous than an indigenous person is living on islands. At least from my perspective. From my point of view, that's the way I think about it. That's why I think I find it very important to acknowledge that you do the work. That's something that you have to acknowledge first, of course, on the outset. People that do the work, but also, like, represent the Naga struggle in the UN for so long, and staying in connection with your movement. With organizations and everything else, whilst living in Norway. So hats off to you, Atina. I recognize that we're coming close to the end of the episode. Is there anything that you want people to think about, walk away with, questions, or something that you would like to share or ask? Go ahead.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. Yes, I definitely also don't see the complex as being away from home, because you're born as a Naga, you're born as an indigenous person, and you'll remain to be so. And wherever you're placed, whatever you can do, even if it's in your own capacity, however, we continue to do, and that is what it is. Anyway. About I have just one question for you, because we have been having this active group, communication group in the WhatsApp, and that's some of the concerned people, they are having these questions of should we it would be good to send our share our stories, to make a kind of representations appeal to the UN, address to the UN Secretary General, for instance, because of the so many complications that is there, and then as civil societies, how can we also approach, how can we make use of the mechanism that the United Nations provide? And then some say that maybe we have to follow the regular procedures, and because UN in itself is a club of member states. And, so that kind of discussion is going on. But I think some people really think that our struggle, our movement, as old as more than 70 years, if we count from the India independence, more than 73 years now. And if you count from the pre-independence, it's more than 100 years, almost 200 years. So in this context, people think that we need the support of the international communities, and we want to address this. We want to bring this. We want to bring our voice to the UN to garner the support of international community. So in this context, would you give some suggestion as to what would be the best way to garner support from the international community, of course, including Indigenous Peoples organizations?
Sure. So let me get this question clear. So that you would like to. So this group is thinking about doing some kind of a communication to the United Nations to garner support from the international community to the struggle of the Naga people.
Yes.
And
that's right.
At first you were thinking about writing to the Secretary General, or sending something to the Secretary General.
Right.
First thought, and you kind of answered the question already a little bit, is that the Secretary General is like the one that leads the Secretariat, like that does the operative work of the United Nations, but is not the leader of the United Nations, as like makes all this decision. The Secretary General facilitates the decision making. So in that sense, it's all about, and so this I immediately go into like thinking of like how can you be effective with your time and with what you're doing. Surely, if you're able to reach the Secretary General, you could get some exposure, maybe, that which could carry you a very long way. But then again, like you want, the international community, as in the States, to sympathize with your movement. Also, on the flip side, and this is just a personal point of view, is that like the Secretary General, like he has not met with Indigenous people since he ascended to that office, to that position. So in contrast to the previous ones, Ban Ki-moon and Kofi Annan, like they met with Indigenous peoples while they were in New York Forum, and also one-on-one caucus or Indigenous delegation versus Secretary General meetings. I was in 2014. I was in one of those meetings. So those are happening, but like I need to have like a Secretary General that is, I don't know what's going on. I know a lot, but don't know that why he still has not met with Indigenous peoples. So in that sense, effectiveness, I would focus on like trying to reach out to the member states, and then do what you could do is send it could be a document or a documentary or a video or something. You could forward that to the member states, but then hope for the best. Could do that. I would do, but like I assume resources and manpower and energy are. You do not have like an never-ending supply of that. So you need to be effective with your time, with the limited resources that you have. So do some research of states that have in the past spoken in favor of solidarity, of sovereignty movements or self-determination movements or indigenous movements similar to the Naga people, and do some research on that, and then because you have a hook, and then you can reach out to them like, hey, appreciate what you just said about XYZ peoples. By the way, I'm Naga, similar situation. Can we have a talk? Can we have a coffee? Or no, well, difficult to have coffee over Zoom or over via Skype. Can I have like 5 minutes with you? It's a start. Like you need to have get a start of a conversation to be able to really, and it is also like one, and I'm not saying that you guys are doing it, but also like sending one document or a declaration or a manifesto or something does not solve all your problems. You need once you engage with the international community, you're building your international reputation. Yeah, it's about nation building, state building. So nation building you do at home. State building is building that relationship with other governments. And state building is actually basically building a wall, like building a house. You need to do it brick by brick. There are no shortcuts. You have to build those relationships, and those relationships, like usually that document can be like the foot in the door, and then you have to start building. But you do have to start building. You have to set the first block. Obviously, if there's anything that I can help you with, just let me know. I'm always willing to help. And then we can definitely talk offline more about like in depth, like, all right, how can we, unpack that a little bit into like more actions that your group can do.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be fantastic. Yes, we will continue to look up to your expertise and the network and the support that we are getting from you. It's very precious, and we want to keep that. Definitely.
Oh, always, always. Yeah.
Yes.
No, like, I'm always available. Yeah.
I agree. Just one other question. How effective would be to send a communication to the special reporter on Indigenous Peoples?
Special rapporteur on the rights of Indigenous peoples, like it's you can always send a communication when it comes to human rights violations or violations of the elements or provisions of the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. So when something occurs on the ground, you can always write to the special rapporteur. But you can also, like, there are 40 special procedures of the United Nations. So like a special rapporteur on rights of Indigenous peoples is ours, yes, but it's only one of them. So you should see it as a menu. All right. So the human rights violations that happens on the ground, let's say like women's rights violations. All right, there must be something about freedom of expression in there. Oh, check. There's a special rapporteur on freedom of expression. Assemblies, check. And you can write to all of them, like that are relevant to the human rights violations that's happening. Because right now, that's unfortunately what's happening a lot. I don't know under this current special rapporteur, Pancho, Francisco Cali, but previously, what I heard a lot was like it was a bottleneck. All these Indian peoples, they were writing to the special rapporteur on the rights of Indian peoples, but like it's only one person. It's only one person, and with of course, like University of Arizona was supporting him and currently and previously also Vicky Taylor Corpus, but it's only one person, and so like you had a bottleneck, and I think it's more important to Indigenous peoples to look to the entire chessboard. Like, all right, this is what we have at our disposal. Not only special rapporteur on rights of Indigenous peoples, it's just one pawn, but there's so many more. There's 40 more, and there's also all these complete mechanisms of CEDAW. You can also write the CEDAW, Eradication of Discrimination Against Women, CRC, Right to the Child, CERD. All these treaty bodies you can write to. So it's always good. So like I think it should be a reflex. Train that reflex. Once a human rights violation occurs on the ground in Nagaland, boom. All right. Human rights procedures, complaint procedures, and I'm currently actually I think you're getting a scoop of it. I'm currently developing a PowerPoint or a deck actually from A to Z how someone can file a complaint to the human rights treaty bodies and the special rapporteurs. So it makes it much more easy. We need to use them more. Use the treaty bodies.
Like a manual, right? For
like step by step, take you to the hand by the hand. All right, this is what you have right now. So let's start building efficiently, so that you can write to all the relevant complaint mechanisms that are out there of the United Nations.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So once it's ready, then I hope
Sure.
we can all get
I'll check it with you as a senior fellow. Yeah, probably have some insights. I'll check with you. Yeah, and then hopefully I can launch it on my birthday, which will be December 11th. So a day after Human Rights Day.
Good luck with that. Yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you. Atina, thank you so much for being with us. Have you have any final thoughts? We're also a little bit over time anyway. So
I'm sorry if I missed out, answering your questions in between, So, but of course, a little bit on my senior fellowship when I was at the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in 2014. That second exposure was more like professional engagement. So it was a bit different. So I helped out the Secretariat and then the MRIP Secretariat when they were holding the special session on the Indigenous Peoples half-day panel session during the Human Rights Council, and Juan was there as the Secretariat and assisted. And also they have this 1 month Indigenous Fellowship program where students from different countries, around 20 of them came, and then I was also assisting the coordinator of the UN Fellowship Program, and then I also provide inputs and also get to meet all these fellows, and so the network get expanded. And currently we also have this UN Fellows group in the Facebook right from 1997. I think the first fellowship started from there. Yeah, so we have a big number alumni of the UN Fellows. So that's where also we get to share and interact. And I also posted this talk that we are holding to the group. Hopefully some of them is watching. So anyway, as you were mentioning in the beginning, that I have had the opportunity to be there in the UN system. And when I was there, I was bound by certain conditions where I'm not able to speak as an activist because I'm part of the Secretariat. So you don't do activism work while you are there, but you get to learn, you get to observe, you get to see the mechanism, how it works. And in the process, I also developed friendship, network, also within the Secretariat. So that helps when I go back and attend the Human Rights Council, MRIP, Permanent Forum, whatever, them by face, by personally. So it's a big help. Like when I need anything, they're ready to help. When I send email, so that kind of building network, I think is very, very.
It's a support system.
Yeah. It's a big support system, and I'm thankful for that. And since not many people have access to this kind of opportunity, I also feel that it's my responsibility, it's my obligation to give back to my people, and
100%.
Yes. So
100%.
I'm trying in the most possible way that I can, and I know there's still a lot more work ahead, and hopefully we'll be able to continue, and with bigger support and more collaboration, I think we can do much more. Thank you,
Atina. It does not have to be perfect. You don't have to be it is very important. At least you have the mindset of duplicating yourself. I want to call it. I don't call it like giving back, but duplicating yourself, because you have to have knowledge, information, tools.
Yes.
That work, because you were close to the sun. Actually, you were part of the UN system, so you had a lot of insight and a lot of knowledge. And it's very important that you duplicate yourself. It is a total waste of time. Again, my perspective, my point of view is if you sit on the information, if you keep sitting on it. So and you said it yourself already, try to duplicate yourself in a way that is most comfortable to you, in a way that is practical for you as well. You don't have to hold in-house of in-person meetings for a week in Nagaland if you don't have the resources for it. So that's what I'm saying. You can put out YouTube videos or something else along those lines, to educate people.
Absolutely.
There's so many things that you can do. Obviously, we can definitely also talk about that, because like I'm also doing it as much as possible with like whilst we're in COVID-19 times. So so don't look at don't listen to what I say, but look at what I do. Maybe that's the best message actually from my end.
Of course. To end, I just want to congratulate you for this wonderful job bringing in indigenous representatives, experts, seniors, having a talk, and then it doesn't end with the live telecast, but you recorded it, and so for people to go back and refer to their speeches, to their talk, it's a wonderful resource, and definitely a big help for so many indigenous activists around the world. And once again, congratulations and thumbs up for the wonderful job that you were doing.
That makes me so happy for you to say that. Thank you so much. And always, just here to serve, actually. It's to serve the movement in whatever way I can. So thank you so much for those kind words, Atina. I'm sure your husband is waiting for you right now with a nice
evening meal.
evening in front of the couch. In front of the TV.
They call it smart here. How do they call it?
After a long day, you very much deserve it. Atina, thank you so much for your time. Second time being on the show.
You.
And no, it's, thank you so much. And let's talk offline further, maybe during the week or something, to talk more about like the ideas that you and some of the people in your organization have.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much, Ghazali, and have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Bye. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.